Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Huff. Huff, why don't you take a second and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a full-time faculty member in the Victor Valley office of the system. I've been with the university full-time since 2004, and I've had the opportunity to work on several different projects with Dr. Green.
And that would be me. Hi, Kimberly Green. I am full-time faculty, School of Ed. I was instructional designer for School of Ed, and now I am serving as the director for the Center for Instructional Innovation. This truly is a conversation. Dr. Huff and I worked very hard on this course together, and we didn't agree on everything. We had parallel philosophical tenets, and that's part of the reason we're doing this, because some people believe that being an expert means that you and every other expert automatically agree on everything, and it's not at all what it means. So what we're going to do now is walk through the handbook, and then we are going to specifically focus on the rubric at the end for your paper in and of itself. Table of contents, enthralling. Each one of these is a click. They are embedded documents. You can click on them and download those actual documents. The introduction, I think it's pretty straightforward. Huff, what do you think?
It is. We just reiterate some of the information that they already have in their catalog.
You want to hit on the outline?
Yes, we are very proud of this. Yes. So what we have done is created an outline of the components that you need to include when you actually write your paper. And we wanted to share with you this little bit of information from Robert Glaser, and it comes from his Nature of Expertise in 1988, which we want you to read. But he has done work regarding the ideas that people have about what it means to be an expert. Just as Dr. Green alluded to just a little bit ago, different people have different opinions, but we wanted you to have that background information. And when you write your expertise paper, it's actually going to be comprised of the three components. You have to do the outline, you have to actually write the expertise paper, and then you're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, which we think you're going to be so excited by the time you get to this part that it'll just be a breeze for you.
So why an outline? Well, aside from the fact that organizationally it's crucial, we wanted to ensure your success. So there's some of the nuts and bolts. Yes, a title page. Yes, an abstract. What's the point of an abstract? Huff, why don't you talk about the point of an abstract?
Yes, this was one of those points that we got to, and it was like, well, you know, in APA, you might not have the abstract here, but one of the things that I remembered and then we talked about is that if you want to have anything published in order to be accepted for a presentation, a concurrent session, even if you're going to do a poster presentation, you are asked for an abstract. And so we wanted you to have that in hand so that as you look to the future, you would already be prepared if you choose to go that route.
And yes, a table of contents. And some people find this very silly, but I don't care if your paper is 3 pages or 300 pages. The thing is, think about the reader. Even though initially someone may read your paper straight through, there may be something spectacular in your paper or a point they want to hit on. And being able to have that in the table of contents, oh yeah, it was this section, that is one of those things that, yes, it really is taking your time afterwards to go back and ensure that your table of contents is clean. I know a lot of people get done writing it and they're like, ugh, table of contents, leave me alone. It is important. It's respectful for your readers. So please don't ignore that part. So then we get into section 1, the introduction. Huff, you want to take this?
Yes, after you have completed this course and you have read and learned so much about the different contemporary issues in curriculum, you're going to select a topic that you want to become more of an expert about. And so in this background, that is what you're going to share with us, why it's valid in relation to the different issues that you have been learning about. And why is it worthy? We don't want you to get to this point and just select some topic randomly. We want it to be worthy of your time, and we want the information that you select to use to support it to actually be evidence that this is something that you are truly interested in. And we know, of course, that when we get into relevancy, you can only determine that something is relevant after you have consulted numerous sources of information, not just off the top of your head. And again, we get back to why is it relevant to you as a professional? This is the point where we know that none of you will have the same topic, or if you do, you will have different reasons for having that topic, and you will be sharing that information with us and the audience.
And parallel to that, it kind of dovetails with what happens in a doctoral program, if you will, where the concept of expertise when you get to your dissertation is taken to a whole nother level. But here's where there's some very real similarities. Oftentimes, people will come into a doctoral program and say, I already have my topic. I know what I'm going to study. And they're so focused on just trying to prove what they've already thought before they came in and did all the study that they end up making more work for themselves. You're coming into the class to gain not just knowledge and not just validate something you already know. You can have a topic, that's totally appropriate, but you have to be willing to truly become an expert in any field. You have to be willing to take what it is you think you know and look at it from multiple perspectives and be willing to rebuild that scaffold of understanding. So this is why that introduction is so crucial. Because if in your introduction, in the background and in the relevancy, your entire setup is, well, I've been teaching for 15 years, so I already know this to be true, now I'm just going to prove it. Ouch. Experience can be a great teacher, but experience can also give us incredibly bad habits, shortcuts that don't actually serve us in the long run. So that's not what this is about. It's not about proving something you already know. Be prepared. If your background in your relevancy section is stuff that you already knew, it's all old material, there's nothing from new sources, there's nothing from the past 10 years, you may be doing some rewriting. Okay, let's move down to section 2. Dr. Huff, take it.
This is our section on perspective and supporting evidence. This is so important for you to be able to summarize what you learned from the course itself on the topics that relate to your question, and that you look at a wide spectrum of opinions and perspectives. When we get to this, what we mean is don't select only perspectives that support what you say. That's the whole point of a wide spectrum of opinions. Some of them will be different than yours. Just like with Dr. Green and I, we work really well together. We have different opinions, and that's what makes a stronger work when you bring that in and work through it so that you can show that it is not just a one-sided affair.
Some of the best learning comes from a disagreement with someone you know intellectually has the right kind of ideas, but they're looking at it differently than you do. It forces you to have to really think through, again, what it is you think you know. So as we were actually working on the next section, Huff and I had some knockdown dragouts, and it was great because what it did was it validated, again, where we were both coming from, and by asking each other questions on things that we didn't necessarily agree, it helped us see where there were holes in each other's thoughts or arguments, and by the end, we were able to craft what we believe is an experience that will truly afford you to walk out of this class going, yeah, I really am an expert in this. Not because you're going to have all the answers, but you will be in better shape to ask better questions. That, to me, is the hallmark of a real expert. Not somebody who can go, but it's somebody who can look at what's going on and go, but did you remember to bring in this perspective? Or what happened when this happened and it changed the makeup of the experience? It's not having all the answers. It's thinking about it from a different perspective than the novice. So with that, Dr. Huff, section 3, por favor.
Yes, this was our fun part. The first bullet is okay. Okay, so what? You're going to demonstrate to us that you have grown in understanding. But the 2 points where we did have a very good discussion, uh, this would be number 2 and number 3. And so, of course, I went in saying, yes, we have to be able to tell, what are the implications for working with students, teachers, schools, and society? And I thought that was brilliant to just make that statement. And then Dr. Green says, yeah, this is great, but there's more to this than just the implications for working with these different groups. How are you going to identify them? And this truly is where your development of expertise will show itself, because what is appropriate for working, say for me, with schools would be totally different than a person who's working in the classroom and working with students. And so it was fun, and it's a good laugh, but that definitely is how you demonstrate your expertise. Say something, I can tell you're not in your head.
No, I'm laughing because this is what the process is. And you guys will do it mostly asynchronously. I don't know if anybody wants to like dig up Vygotsky and try to get out the Ouija board to talk to him, whatever, you're theorists. But this is what we do, and this is why the research part is so crucial. Because you have to get those multiple perspectives, and you have to be able to go, oh, didn't think of that. How do I pull that in? Or, oh, the application aspect, forgot about that. Or you're not just building straight up, right? You're not building the Washington Monument. You are building a massive base that on sometimes is going to seem like you've got a linear path that then suddenly branches out and then folds back in on itself. So when we talk about, there's a bullet point here, making connections among multiple sources of information. It is so crucial you don't just seek out those, people who are preaching to your choir. And it's really hard because here's what's going to happen if this is the first time you've done something like this. You will read a perspective or a research report or an opinion paper that is different than where you're coming from, and your first reaction is going to be, bury it, or I'm wrong. No. You've got to let that go, and you've got to look at what their argument is. Because there may be some validity, and even if there's no validity, being able to acknowledge and address issues related to your topic that someone could say, but doesn't this relate? And you can either say, no, it doesn't, and here's why, or yes, it does, but it's not valid, and here's why. That's where the expert has that net of understanding and can look at the issue from not just a 360, but the most 3D Einstein-esque, massive space-time vortex that you can ever imagine. Where it says describe problems and challenges, again, don't be afraid of this. And if you begin with a hypothesis, you begin with, this is where I'm starting, and halfway through, 75% through, you realize you were wrong. Your development of expertise leads you to recognize that the way you were looking at something was either so flat or so blindsided that you've had a complete change. That's not only okay, that is a testament to a true professional thinker. Because that's what it is. If your entire academic educational career is just about validating what you know, man, ouch. We live in exponential times. Information is being created at rates beyond anything we can comprehend. And remember when Pluto was a planet? So, stuff we know, yeah, and also the world was flat at one point too. So, describe the last part of section 3. Describe the reality of what was intended in relation to what was accomplished in developing your expertise. Again, if you fall off the turnip truck, it's okay. Hitch a ride with the carrot truck that's right behind. It's okay. And be honest and be genuine, because the road to expertise in any particular area or field is not linear, and it's never smooth, and it's never easy breezy. It really isn't. And if it is, you're missing something. Am I wrong, Huff? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Dr. Huff, it's all yours, baby.
Okay, this is the section where we want you to reflect, think about what you've learned, think about where you want to go with this in your future. And so you're going to share with us how you're going to put your expertise to use in the real world. And this is at your workplace, within an organization, if that's where you are, wherever it is. But also, part of this is where you share with us how your thinking has changed, because you truly cannot go through a process like this without having changes and having had these epiphanies of great things that you want to do and becoming excited. Uh, Knowledge is always exciting. And so this is where you are going to share this with us. And you'll notice that you also must clearly present this in the PowerPoint presentation that you have to put together for us.
Ding. The only thing I want to add here is that recognize when you first turn in your outline, it should be bullets. Okay, you're not turning in your first draft of the paper. There is a process that we constructed to ensure you would have small enough chunks along the road to completing your paper so that you could be successful. We want you to rock this process, but it is a process. People often, here's where people fall by the roadside. They're so focused on just getting it done that they're not present in the process you have to go through to get it done. If you just sit down and start writing, you will have a disaster. You will. Sorry, it's the way it works. Please. There are very few truisms in this world. This is one of them. You got to pay taxes, and if you don't engage in your process, you're in big, big trouble. So the outline is a sketch with bullet points. Don't get crazy and try and fill it in. And when you actually start crafting the paper, you may be moving things around. That's okay. The outline is not a contract. It's an opportunity for you to get organized and your professor to be able to go, okay, this person is on the right track. I see where they're going. Or if there are holes, get information, get assistance before we have Chernobyl. Okay? We don't want to get to that point. So you turn in your outline, and then once it's all approved and rock on, then you're ready to start writing your expertise paper. Oh, Huff, I got to mute for 1 second. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, so the next section is about the expertise paper itself. Remember, you already know that you will study the current issues and research, and you'll have different opinions and perspectives. And as you begin to write the expertise paper, you're going to follow the outline that we gave to you. And the other most important part for you to follow with this will be the rubric for the signature assignment. Because what we want you to have is a document that reflects your expertise. Through this process, after you submit the outline, you are going to work with a peer partner, and you will read one another's work for content style and adherence to AP style. And sometimes when we're reading another person's work, we don't want to give them honest feedback. We want to just tell them, this is great. I think the instructor is going to love this. What we ask that you do is that you truly do this as a peer. And a peer will give you honest feedback and give you recommendations, not changing you, but actually just giving you honest feedback on the holes that your instructor will also help you with. But the whole point is to utilize the time in the peer partner process, use it wisely so that you actually benefit from it. And Dr. Green is great with her research skills, of course. And so as you are going through your writing process, we have this visual for you to use, and it comes from Kinchin, Cabot, and Hayes. And what this figure shows you is how they incorporate significant attributes that people who develop expertise have. And it's as they're, analyzing their own authentic pedagogy for higher education. Dr. Green, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, here's what's important, guys. You're on some level you're double dipping throughout this process because you are gaining an understanding and experiencing the process of becoming an expert. At the same time, you're focusing on your topic, which is enabling, get it? One enables the other. So by being metacognitive, by understanding what it is that you're doing, you're that much better empowered to actually do it well, do it right. So if we look at these knowledge structures, let me make that a little bigger again and zoom up. So what we really liked about this was that it gives you an idea of, as you're working on understanding, how do you move from just having a bunch of knowledge in your head to having a rich, vast, usable array of nets, if you will, that all kind of work together. And so recognize we're looking at knowledge structures, right? For the novice, it's more like a chain. It's linked. One thing only connects to another. As opposed to, for the expert, it's a net. It connects out to millions of little pieces, and they all work in conjunction. And sometimes when you pull one area, one will go up, another will go down. But it's not a breakable structure. All right? Novice thinking is more goal-oriented. It's, here's my issue, gotta solve it. Whereas the expertise is more about gaining understanding. You'll be able to go out and use that understanding, but it's more fluid. It's more flexible. It's not just solve this problem, boom, I'm done. That's the problem with a lot of just-in-time training. You teach somebody how to do one task in one set area, and then if anything changes, they fall to pieces, right? It's the same problem we have with, and nobody take this personally, the last 15 years of people graduating from most business schools in this country. They graduate, they all have the greatest buzzwords in the world, and they can fill out a spreadsheet till the cows come home. But then you put them in an authentic business situation where they're supposed to be using that information to solve problems and to deal with issues and to try and be strategic moving forward, and they fall to pieces. We have employers come back to us constantly complaining, you're not sending me people who understand. You're sending me people who can, tell me what was on page 42 of this leadership book. Well, I can read them page 42 of the leadership book. I can't teach them how to think. So that's what we're working towards. The nets of understanding. Having a more holistic view as opposed to a clinical, technical view, which again is very A plus B equals C. No. We want to move you past that so you're able to not just deconstruct how to get to C, but you're able to come up with better ways to get there and maybe even ask, is C what we're really trying to get to? So that's why we like this.
I love this chart. It's linear and it's simple, but you're able to see the process or the progress that you will be going through. We all begin as novices in whatever it is that we're doing, and we aim for and become oftentimes experts in a particular area. But we wanted you to see this. And as you go through this process in this particular course, this is what we hope that you will be able to say, I just got past that point. Uh, you know, I love this. I'm beginning to see this. When you reach proficiency, and then, of course, when you get to expert, when you're able to talk about it and you're thinking about it and you're able to relate it into different areas, this is what it's all about. And so we wanted to provide this visual for you so that you can see where we want you to go. And Dr. Green was just talking, made a statement just a while ago that reminded me of something that we often experience is where, and we don't want you to go through this in this process, where you may be thinking, okay, what do I need to do to just pass, just to get a certain amount of points so that I don't have to repeat this? Well, we want you to be beyond that. And so you're thinking big picture, you're thinking of my goal is to become the expert or to gain this expertise in this area. Do not stop with the little bits along the way and the points along the way. I just had to say.
Rock on. No, I'm glad you did because it's so important. How many times have we seen people get tripped up because all they want to do is argue over, well, I think that's more work, that should be more points, and you took off 2 points for this. And what does it tell you? It tells you that all they're focusing on is getting it done and getting out, and there is no cognitive change going on, which is the whole point. I mean, why do we go to school? If it's just to learn a task, teach yourself. Anything you want to learn, you can get online. Don't waste your money. But if you want to be a member of a community, if you want to actually change your thinking and gain knowledge and skills that you can go out and use across spectrums in the world, that's what we're working on. So I love this chart as well, but I am a hardcore social constructivist. I think Vygotsky is the dude, and I'm all about Bandura and adult motivation for I mean, I'm such a geek. What I see as missing here is the situated cognition that is crucial to going through these steps. Now, that's why there's teamwork built into this process. So if you get mad, don't write letters to Huff, send them to me. Because from a social constructivist perspective, you cannot truly travel this route without the engagement of those also in the world, be it peripheral or be it interior, which is where the research comes in. By studying the work of those related to that field, it's like having a dinner party with them. You're sitting down and you're learning from them, granted asynchronously, but you're still engaged in a dialogue, okay? Even if it's just that thinking about it, trying to put it down on paper, but having people that you can then have to negotiate the meaning you're constructing, that is what is crucial to truly taking this path from novice down to expert. So again, if working with a peer drives you nuts, sorry, I'm the one you want to yell at. What I'm going to do now is stop this share, and I'm going to open up a different share on my desktop. Hang on one second. This is the rubric. The outline is your structure, but the rubric is your guide to ensuring that you're actually meeting the necessary criterion to demonstrate your expertise. Get it? This is not a mechanism for grading per se. It's far more powerful than that. It is your guide to ensuring that you are able to demonstrate the level of expertise necessary to truly be considered an expert. So, as you see, on the left, you've got your base components, and then going across left to right, you've got exemplary demonstration, satisfactory demonstration, emerging demonstration, and unsatisfactory. Read them all. Trust me. Don't just look at what's exemplary. Make sure you have the 360 understanding of what this rubric says. Now, for those of you who also took EDU 609, which if you're in this course, you better have taken EDU 609, or I'm writing a letter to the registrar. These breakouts on the side, you've got explanation, synthesis, perspective, mechanics, and then a handful of specific concepts related to demonstrating your developing expertise. All right? We're not going to go through all of these. We're just going to hit on a couple. But recognize that explanation, synthesis, and perspective, those should already sound incredibly familiar. Those come directly out of Understanding by Design. See, people really do use this stuff. We're not making it up. So those should be familiar already. Let's take a look at some of the developing expertise. Huff, can you take number 6, talk about A?
Yes. So the description is continuous development of competence as experienced in the contemporary issue in curriculum design and education accumulates. As you go across, the evidence that you are providing for us to show us that this, in fact, has been met uh, under the exemplary, for example, you have at least the 5 direct statements that relate to the course. And these will be what we use to show that or to see that you've illustrated growth. And you see the word and. Whenever you see an and, it means that you must have what's there first, and then you must have what's there second. And in this case, it's all statements are logical and appropriate in the overall context of this paper. And yes, we put this in because we want you to think about this, that your statements must be logical when you're writing them for us. One of the little tricks that I tell my students all the time is read it aloud to yourself and tape it, on your phone or whatever, or get someone else to listen. And if they say, "What do you mean by that?" you need a little bit more, because we may very well need a little bit more to understand it. And that is, it goes across that way. But remember, we're looking for you to demonstrate for us that this is accumulating through the evidence that you provide for us.
Now recognize when we ask for something from the class, it can be something maybe from the beginning where you recognize you had a very limited perspective on what you were trying to do. Okay? Don't be afraid. In fact, that is a demonstration of expertise. Go ahead and say, I started, and here's what I was thinking, and I put this in a discussion board, or somebody put this in a wiki, and I responded this way, and I've come to recognize because, and then use some other artifact to demonstrate, I was mistaken. I was looking at it from a wrong perspective. I was short-sighted. Not that short is bad. Short is good, people. It's okay. Don't be afraid to show growth. It never ceases to amaze me how people are so afraid that if they show any alleged weakness, that's not a weakness. That is an expert. An expert will say, 20 years ago I thought this. 15 years ago I thought this. 30 seconds ago I thought this. But here's where I'm at now and why. Okay? That's developing expertise.
So in the next part, we have that the expertise in the issue is very specific. Here, what we want you to share with us is how will this, or how does it fit in working with students, teachers, schools, and society? And here what you note as you go across is that in the next area next to exemplary, it's where the student only addresses this with less than the complete group, 3 of the 4 groups. And then it moves across 2 of the 4, and then 1 of the 4. So you see again that this is how you are demonstrating that you have an understanding of what the expertise looks like. And then the next part, where you develop the ability to perceive large, meaningful patterns, this is where in the exemplary, you are making connections among seemingly disparate sources of information. And what that term means is that these sources of information may not at first glance look like they fit together or that they relate at all, but you are able to look at these different sources and you are able to see connections, and you see connections to the larger world, and you perceive the relevancies and how these different sources are actually relevant to you and what you are developing. Okay, so in this item number 9, you are demonstrating to us that you have highly procedural knowledge. And again, we get into the definition of what this demonstration looks like for us, that you have consulted numerous sources, at least 5, because it is not enough to read one fabulous, great article and think that you know it all. You need to read numerous articles and go to numerous sources so that you can again see the left side, the right side, and where do you fit within all of this. That is really important. And We expect you to use scholarly language. In GATE training, we talk about the language of the discipline. And so you are a professional educator, and we expect that you will use language that is befitting what you are and what you are going to become.
Guys, part of that relates also as well back to my social constructivist leanings. Um, when we look at peripheral participation, you may start as a novice outside of a community of practitioners, right? Uh, I'll use med school because that's a real easy one. When you first start going to med school, they may give you a coat and you try to use the language, but you don't really know how to, and it doesn't feel right in your mouth. And your professors may laugh at you the first time you say, I'm amygdala the wrong way or something. But it's a step in to being an authentic member of the practitioner community. If a surgeon and a butcher sit down to have a cup of coffee and they say to each other, "Hey, I bought a new knife today," and the other guy says, "Yeah, I bought a new knife too." Well, I don't know about you, but I am praying that they have different visuals in their head from what their knives look like. It's the same type of thing. By being able to use the language appropriately, and at first it may feel very stiff, right? It's like a new suit that doesn't quite fit. You have to break it in. You have to rehearse. You have to practice using the language appropriately for it to become a part of you and a part of the way you think. I remember when I first started throwing out terms like social constructivism and zone of proximal development and all this stuff, I would laugh at myself in third person. Who am I to be throwing out these $15 SAT words? But to be a member of a community means that you're able to use the nomenclature of the community. It's not using these terms to try and make somebody else uncomfortable. I I'm completely comfortable with my expertise in the areas that it is and my lack of expertise in other areas. My husband is a classically trained chef. I have a scar from trying to use a toaster oven. Okay? I don't make any pretense. I don't compete with him in the kitchen. I don't even like going into the kitchen. So I know and I'm comfortable. I'm not an expert in everything. And there's another mistake that people make. And this is why this developing expertise experience is so important. You're not going to become an expert in everything related to your topic, which is why you do need to get a focal point so that you can get that area where you really do become comfortable and fluid and fluent and can have these conversations without laughing at yourself in the third person that I just use peripheral participation. It's it becomes a part of you and it really will. You just need to practice, and that's why the peer reviews and talking to your professor, this communication, consistent communication is so crucial. Because if you just study in a vacuum, you really won't learn anything, right? You'll be the kid with the photographic memory who can tell you, sit down and go, the periodic table of elements is, and that's the end of it. A dog and pony show on the Ed Sullivan Show. All right, are we able to move down to 10?
Yes, we are. And
Look at
Dr.
this.
Green covered this one really great. It's where you demonstrate to us that you have the ability to perceive the problems that you had and that you recognize them and then you address them. And just a little bit earlier, she had gone through the whole point of why you want to, we all need to experience problems when we're learning because you're going to anyway, whether you want to, and that we can recognize it and then describe them, you know. And here you have an or, because you may just jump right out there and you tell us about all the problems that you had, and that's great. Or you might be the student who came into this with what she already suggested you shouldn't come in with, saying, well, this is what I am going to be and this is what I am going to know, because you already have a little bit of knowledge about that. But here you may have, you began thinking you knew everything about the topic, and then you tell us what the reality became for you. And it's a beautiful thing when you can tell that, yeah, I really did think that I knew all that I was going to know because I really selected a topic that I thought I knew a lot about. But now I know that I accomplished so much more as I went through this process. If nothing more than learning to work with other people. Dr. Green.
Seriously. There's a wonderful quote out there that the more expert you become in your field, the better you recognize how much you don't know. I love that. And it's so true. I'm always telling both students and peers, the first person to stand up and say, I alone have the answer, I alone know everything in this area, that's usually the last person you want to be listening to. Okay? It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. It maybe worked that way in the 19th century where knowledge was limited to those who had access to the biggest libraries and the greatest thinkers, but we all have access to the biggest libraries and the greatest thinkers. So that world is gone. And sorry if that's a wake-up call for somebody, but it is what it is. So that is the paper rubric. Now hang on and let's go back to our handbook, at which point we are now on the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, and this is where you're going to be doing your happy dance because you're so excited that you reached this already. And you will note, it's not a long PowerPoint presentation, 5 to 7 slides. And it's going to share that significant, important information that we pointed out before, which was how will you put this to use in the real world and how has it changed your thinking about the topic and your own ability. It's really important that you do this reflection piece. What you really are going to be excited about, or at least we are excited about, is that we created a rubric for you to use as you put together the 5 to 7 slide presentation because we wanted to make sure, part of that whole net process, that you have exactly all of the details about what we're going to be looking at as we do this. And again, you're almost at the very end when you get here.
So the rubric for the PowerPoint is very straightforward. I know that the rubric for the paper is big and it requires an inordinate amount of focus. Well, welcome to higher education. This one is very straightforward. And again, we don't give rubrics because we're evil. My husband might argue that one. We give rubrics so that you really understand what you need to demonstrate and what is the highest expectation of that demonstration. Rubrics are the most fair way to ensure you know what you're being assessed on, what you have to actually do to show success. Absolutely. That's why we do the rubric. So all that we've discussed with you, that's where the rubric is. This is your handbook that we're looking at. And I don't know why that icon isn't showing up right now, but 1, 2, 3, you have 3 attachments that are in the handbook that you double click and they will download into your own computer.
We are really excited about this class. We hope that you get as much from it as we put into it because we did spend wonderful hours together. More than we ever imagined we would spend together. But we're very proud of it, and we do welcome the feedback that we get all the time. If you find little glitches or if there are areas that we need to give more information on, we really do look forward to getting feedback on what we do because it's all about having the best product we can for our students. Don't forget to read.
Reading. You got to read. You got to read. Now, that said, you can include and cite videos, podcasts. I sound like my grandmother. Materials off the internet, iTunes University. All of this stuff is relevant. And in fact, I just posted something recently we were all laughing about. There's now an APA formula for how you cite a tweet. Okay, guys, seriously, don't cite tweets. Sorry. I am the geekiest professor at Bremen University, and even I think that's pushing it just too far. Don't be citing tweets in your expertise paper, or it better be somebody good.
or don't cite Wikipedia either,
Oh, my start.
because
Oh, my God.
don't, 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 don't.
Wikipedia is not a valid source of information. Oh, my God. Ah, but, okay, but if you're looking for something and it's a starting place, look at the sources for the article that they've cited and go to those original sites. That's okay. But yeah, if you try and cite Wikipedia, you're going to give your instructor heartburn. Oh, don't cite Wikipedia, please. I go in and change Wikipedia pages. My 4-year-old goes in and changes Wikipedia pages. Anybody, it's not valid. Sorry, it's not valid. Okay, we done? We got it?
We're through. This
Okay.
has been fabulous. Thank you.